Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boston and Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Hurlbut. Hope everyone's off to a great start to the week. It's Tuesday, so happy Tuesday. Baseball season is, nearing an end. We're getting into playoff baseball, so that's really exciting. This season kind of flew by. I know for us Red Sox fans, it was not exactly the most enjoyable season to watch, but we're hoping for a bounce back year next year. So it's the fall's a great time, honestly, a great time of the year. I'm really excited to have a special guest with me on this episode. Excited to introduce him. He's kind of worked his way up the ranks, is now in the Red Sox system at Double A Portland, Sea Dogs. And Tyler Dearden, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat it up.
Yeah, I appreciate you hopping on with me. It's always nice to talk to different people on here and kind of learn about different people's stories and everything like that. So it's definitely a lot of fun.
For sure. I can imagine.
But yeah, no, I hope you're having a good day, and I'm excited to talk to you. I know, I mentioned kind of briefly to you a little bit about my podcast, kind of some of the people that I've had on here. It's always a good time with these people, good guests and everything. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to start off by just asking you a little bit about your baseball journey, kind of when you started playing, and yeah, like how you really fell in love with the sport.
Yeah, honestly, I probably started playing as long as I can imagine. My dad actually coached college baseball at the College of New Jersey Division III while I was growing up. So, he would bring me to practices, and I'd hang around those guys, and I think that's kind of where I fell in love with the game, was just always being at the baseball field with my dad, watching him coach, and all his players were always super nice to me and let me hang out with them and hit the ball and stuff. So I think for sure that probably is where it all started, and then ever since it's kind of, I fell in love then, and I haven't looked back.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like it was just kind of engraved in you at a young age to like baseball because it was already in the family.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. My dad's a big baseball guy, and I think a funny story I have is he actually made me hit left-handed on purpose. My mom will tell
Really?
me, yeah, he never told me that. My mom ended up telling me that one, but I did pick up the bat right-handed, and he switched my hands right away.
That's so funny, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I feel like it's probably a good thing ultimately at the end of the day because it's better to be able to be skilled, I feel like, in that way and be able to hit both, which is super rare with that you see with baseball players, like, and especially be like when lefties come up to bat, it's just like it's a lot less common, obviously. So that's definitely interesting that he kind of engraved that in you.
yeah, no, for sure. And I think I talked to him about it now. His mindset behind that was just, you're gonna face more right-handed pitchers than left-handed pitchers, and I mean that for sure is a thing. Looking at my numbers throughout my minor league career, I've had way more at bats against right-handed pitchers than left-handed pitchers, so I'd say it worked out.
Really? That's so funny. Yeah, so he knew what he was doing
Yeah, he had an
the whole
idea of what
time.
he was doing.
He just didn't let you know what he was doing and what his
No,
plan was.
no, no, but I thank him for that now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's really interesting. Yeah, no, really cool story. Obviously, you've been in the Red Sox system. So what is that like being in a system for a team that's obviously so successful, has a really good history, and just knowing that you're a part of that organization?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the Red Sox are one of the most storied franchises, in baseball. Um, and ever since I've been drafted, the Red Sox have taken care of me and all their players. That's why they are, that storied organization, is they do things the right way from the top down. And I mean, everything is first class. The facilities, the coaching staff, all the way down, everyone in that system. So for me, it's been a blessing, to be put into that organization as a 19-year-old kid out of high school, and I kind of put me in there and help me develop, and almost in a way become a man. I've kind of grown up. I felt like I've kind of grown up through their system, and matured on and off the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely obviously a change going from, playing baseball growing up to being in a professional organization. I can imagine there was a bit of a transition period there.
Oh yeah, for sure. You go straight from high school. I actually was still in high school when the draft was going on. Even after the draft, still had like a week of high school left. That's the joy of being from New Jersey. Schools run late, but yeah, going straight from high school and then going down into Fort Myers, you're kind of for the first time you're kind of on your own. Kind of get dropped off, and it's like, all right, you're on your own. Be at the field at 7 a.m. tomorrow, and you're just like, okay. So you
Reality
learn.
sets in.
Yeah, you learn quick. How to be on your own and do everything by yourself. But they do a great job of helping you with those things, and there's always someone there for you for whatever you need. Honestly.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the schools running late thing because I'm from Connecticut and it was the
Yep.
same. Like
Yeah.
schools were always running late, so that was really annoying because I knew, people from other places that got out of school so early, and then there was me. So
Yeah.
I
Into
definitely
the end
understand that.
end of June, I'm still sitting in class.
Yep. Yep, and I'm like, "Can I just start the summer now, please?" So I
hmm
definitely understand. Who was your favorite team growing up?
So it's probably gonna be a controversial topic here, but I grew up a Yankees fan.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I'm not I kind of had a feeling that you might say that because you're from New Jersey. So a
Yeah.
lot of New Jersey people are probably Yankees fans. So I'm not really surprised. I mean, I'm from Connecticut. That's split between Boston and New York fans a lot. So
Yep.
you either choose the right side, which is the Boston side, or you choose the wrong side. Unfortunately for those people, but yeah, no, but yeah, though that kind of makes sense. So that's probably interesting too that you grew up a Yankees fan and now you're playing in the Red Sox organization.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. Growing up, I'd always go to Yankee Stadium and followed the Yankees for most of my childhood. Derek Jeter's kind of been my role model throughout. Um, I mean, for me, even still, it's like he's still one of the best to ever do it. So I'm still gonna stick by him, but I won't say I'm still a Yankees fan. I won't say that. Obviously, now being in the Red Sox organization, but yeah, it's been weird going from growing up in Yankee Stadium and then doing a pre-draft workout at Fenway. It was actually the first time I was there, and it's really cool. I mean, Yankee Stadium obviously I think is one of the best stadiums, but being in Fenway it felt different. It's definitely a historical place and a really cool stadium.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people enjoy playing at Fenway just because of all the history there, like you said, and just knowing all the players that have crossed through there. And Yankee Stadium's definitely cool, but I know a lot of Yankees fans who said that they prefer the old Yankee Stadium and it's just not as it just doesn't feel the same as Fenway does.
Yeah, I will agree with that. I'll agree with that statement 100%. The new stadium, it's still Yankee Stadium, but it just feels different and a lot more electronics going around and a lot more expensive. Food's a lot more everything's just more expensive. But it's nice.
Yeah. No, that is. Yeah, I was gonna ask you who some of your favorite players were that you looked up to, but you already kind of answered that question with the Derek Jeter thing, that he was kind of your role model growing up. Were there other players that you kind of followed a lot that you were like, I want to be this person?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was Jeter. I played shortstop growing up, so obviously everyone, especially in New Jersey, is like everyone wants to be Derek Jeter.
Yep.
Everyone wants to be the captain. He's a good role model to follow. And I think other than that, I would say when Bryce Harper started coming up into the league, I guess I was a little older then, but I really enjoyed watching him and the way he played the game super hard. And obviously he's one of the most talented players out there, but he plays the game super hard, and that's something I take pride in as well.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I've really always liked watching Bryce Harper play because he just plays the game the right way. And
Right.
there's certain players that you just look at them and you're like, yeah, this person plays the game the right way. I'd say Dustin Pedroia was another example of somebody like that who a lot of people respected the way he played the game. And it was unfortunate the way his career ended, but he's definitely somebody who I know a lot of baseball fans really respected as a player just because of his personality and his leadership and just the way he approached the game.
Yeah, no,
There's some
and
guys who are
yeah,
just
as
like
a
that.
right, and as a former Yankees fan, no, he was obviously like Yankees fans. He's one of those guys that you respect, even though he's on a rival team
Yeah.
for the way he plays the game. And yeah, I was actually in Greenville last year when was it 2021 when he was rehabbing, he's trying to
Mhm.
rehab and make it back. That was last year, right? Pedroia? Or was that 19?
Um, that was 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, no, whatever it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
he actually was with us for a week, and it was just awesome to see him face to face in the clubhouse, and get to pick his brain a little bit, and just watch him play on the field.
Yeah,
That was
that
the
must have
biggest
been
thing.
pretty cool to talk to somebody like that who obviously, one of the other things about him was spending his whole career with the Red Sox. And I feel like that's not as common now for
No,
players anymore. And so people really respect somebody like that who spent their entire career somewhere. So
right,
that has to have been cool to hear his perspective on kind of working his way through the Red Sox system.
right. No, for sure. I like you said, it's really not common anymore. You see guys, even Pujols. I wish as a baseball fan, I wish he ended up staying in St. Louis the whole time. But he
Yeah, I
obviously
know.
had that
I
stint with the
mean,
Dodgers.
I love Pujols. Yeah, he's one of those players too that everybody's just gonna miss. It's gonna be weird without him. Obviously, him hitting 700 home runs was super cool. Good for him.
But
That's an awesome
yeah,
accomplishment. But yeah, I know he's one of those players that you'll always associate with St. Louis.
right. Yeah. Like when you
You
think of
know,
the Cardinals, like, especially for me, is like Molina, Wainwright, and him. And I don't know if you saw that video of them all walking off the field together.
I did. Yeah.
That was cool. That was almost like those are guys I watched growing up, with the Cardinals. Like those are guys I think of. So that was a cool moment for sure.
Yeah, I'm actually rooting for them to go all the way and win the World Series this year, specifically for those guys, because I think it would just be really cool for them. It would be a really good icing on the cake if they won it all.
Yeah.
So since the Red Sox aren't in the playoffs this year, that's kind of the team I'll be pulling for.
Yeah, I don't blame you on that one.
But yeah, no, that's super cool. And also another thing I know is a lot of times major league players do their rehabbing in double A when they're coming back from injury. So are there any players, any Red Sox players that even this past season were rehabbing in double A that you kind of enjoyed talking to or got to talk to?
Yeah, we had a couple this year. We had Ref Snyder was there, Kike was there, and
I love PK.
Sale. Yeah, Kike was a great dude, and Sale was there as well for a little bit. Yeah, Sale was actually the man. I know a lot of stuff came out on Scherzer when he was rehabbing that he bought everyone headphones, and I think no one really knows, but Sale did the same for us, and he took care of us well. He bought us everybody in the locker room headphones, and he even bought a UFC fight the one night and had some food for us, in the clubhouse after the game. So if he's awesome, I know guys learned a lot from him, and obviously we're thankful for everything he's done, everything he did for us during that time when he was there. He fit right in as one of the guys.
That's awesome. And these guys too, they can relate to your situation. They've all been there and they're
Right.
at the level that, they know that you guys all strive to be at. So they probably hopefully for the most part I would imagine are more than willing to kind of help out and offer advice when they can.
No, for sure. I think Ref Snyder was one of the ones, that guys could relate to almost the most. As he talked, he goes, I feel like I've almost played for every minor league team in the country. He's kind of been
So many places.
he's kind of been a journeyman. So, I know he knows what we're going through, and it was good to connect with him and get his, insight on everything and how he goes about his business and how he's in the position that he is now today.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. That's definitely really cool to kind of see. Are there any like coaches that you had that you kind of credit a lot to in terms of getting you to where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, I think throughout, I want to say my first year was Tom Kochman in the GCL. Um, like I said, being a young kid, you're just kind of down there by yourself. Didn't really know what to expect, and he was kind of the perfect fit for me. Kind of helped me, make that transition right in. And then I'd even say Darren Fenster. He's now the infield coordinator, but he was the outfield coordinator last year, and he's helped me a lot defensively. Also a Jersey guy, so we have a kind of a connection. But no, I can't thank him enough for helping me defensively and putting in the work with me and helped me become a better outfielder.
Yeah, and obviously, outfield is one of the toughest positions to play defensively. I feel like people really gain an appreciation for people who play those positions because it's definitely not an easy position. At what point throughout kind of your baseball journey did you really realize that you wanted to be an outfielder or that was really your position?
Yeah, no, I played shortstop growing up, obviously until like high school. That was kind of where I played, and then I realized, I was started hitting for more power, and it was like, okay, I'm probably gonna end up being a corner guy here. So got a little bigger, put on some weight, and became a corner outfielder. And so for me, I would say that it was high school when I started playing there, and I felt like that was a position for me.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. Yeah, and then because outfield, I feel like it's not everybody can play that position. I feel like it's just one of those positions that's pretty tough to play because catching those fly balls is harder than it looks. I feel like.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially the super high ones. Yeah, everyone thinks it's super easy until they get out there and there's top spin, there's side spin, the ball's going all different ways and the lighting. So it all plays a factor, but you get used to it.
Yeah, being able to gauge exactly where the ball is hit and especially in the sun. I mean, I've seen this
So,
happen in major league games too, where they just
right.
don't see the baseball because of the sun, and then people are like, "What is he doing?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how could he drop that? But it's like, I mean, if he can't see it, he can't see it.
Right. Yep. I've been there. It's not a good feeling because you're the last line of defense out there. So when you can't see it, there's no one behind you to get it. So you're just hoping for the best.
Yeah, no, for sure. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis, you know, doing what you do? Because obviously being a professional athlete is not easy. So what would you say are kind of the biggest challenges day to day that you kind of see in your career?
Yeah, I would say being disciplined. I think that's one big thing is, being disciplined obviously at the field, taking care of what you have to do at the field, getting treatment, taking care of your body, because if body don't feel good, you're not going to perform. So that's obviously a huge thing. And being disciplined off the field, at the end of the day, obviously you want to have your fun here and there, but you got to be disciplined and make sure you recover the right way so you're ready to go and play 140 games. And then I think maintaining relationships. I think that's one that's not really talked about a lot. Is for me is trying to maintain relationships throughout the season. Like, you're playing 140 games and you're at the field for what X amount of hours every day. It's hard to kind of stay in touch with people that you formed relationships back home, whether it's family members, friends, girlfriends, whatever it is. I think that's a big thing, and I think that goes along with like your mental health is like being able to separate your baseball and your off the field life and not let the baseball life take over and still have a kind of a 50-50 split and still be able to maintain those relationships.
Yeah, I feel like I agree with you. I feel like that's not talked about enough. I feel like people don't really always realize just how much time you're actually committing to your sport. And so it's tough for
Right.
families, it's tough for family members to be able to probably get as much time with you as they would want to. But it's
Right.
definitely mentally probably challenging for players to be able to balance that personal life too. And it's even more so than the rest of us just because you're on the road a lot during the season and it's a long season and I feel like it can be tough to kind of balance everything and not make everything always about baseball, even though that can be really tough, especially during the season.
Right, and I think that's where, performance comes in. You have a bad game, you strike out 3 times. You don't want to you don't want to make a call. You don't want to make those calls. You're like, I'll do it tomorrow. Like you just don't want to talk to anybody. So being able to separate, like I said, I think that's a huge thing for me. And I've been lucky enough to kind of been playing on the East Coast since I've been drafted, especially this year in Double A. My parents were only a few hours away from a lot of places. Somerset was awesome, like 45 minutes away. So got to see a lot of family and friends there. And then even Hartford, only 3 hours. So Reading, only two
That's right
hours.
by
So
me.
yeah,
Harvard.
no, Dunkin' Donuts Park is awesome. That's one of my favorite stadiums for sure.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it is awesome. Yeah, I went to quite a few Yard Goats games this past summer because it's just a great stadium.
it is. I think someone was saying, if they had another level of seating, it would qualify as a big league stadium.
Yeah. No, because I've kind of wondered that too because it's a pretty big place, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, I feel like if they just added one more level up top, it probably could be.
Yeah, that's what I heard. It's awesome.
But yeah, I feel like that's nice for you being from Jersey and being drafted to the organization that you did because it's not like you've had to spend a lot of your career across the country or anything like that. So for the most part, it's probably relatively easy for you to be able to see your family. Are they able to make it to games sometimes?
Yeah, yeah, especially my dad ended up retiring last year, so he's been able to come a lot. My mom works in a high school, so the summer she's able to come. She has the summers off, so especially this year, being with a lot of teams close to here, I got to see them a lot, and obviously for me that means a lot to me. Seeing familiar faces in the stands.
Yeah. Because I feel like at games, it's probably because there's always that huge crowd, obviously, and there's a lot of people there rooting for your team. But if you see people you know that are close to you and they're here to support me specifically, it
Yeah,
probably fuels a different kind of energy. Like I need to have a good game for these people because these are the people close to me.
right, and even just kind of confidence boost. Even
Yeah.
you're not feeling good at the plate, just knowing that these people are there and they believe in you. So
So if you have a bad game, for example, like you mentioned, striking out 3 times or you make a couple really bad errors in the field. I mean, it happens. It's a long season. Like every player is going to have bad games. How hard is it to really bounce back the next game if you have just an exceptionally bad game? Is that difficult or do you just kind of go into the next day and say it's okay, it's a new day today?
right. So if you asked me this question a few years ago in the beginning of my career, I'd give you a completely different answer. For
Okay.
me, in the beginning of my career, a bad game for me would turn into a bad week and a bad 2 weeks, a bad month. I would really let those things, pile up, and I really let those things get to me. And I would say starting even last year in 2021, I try and just really separate those things, separating every at bat, separating every pitch. For me, is knowing that you know being confident in the work you put in. Sometimes you're gonna get screwed by the umpire or the pitcher's gonna make good pitches. Some things are out of your control. So just sticking to your plan at the plate and having confidence. And for me, I think a big thing that I started saying last year from pitch to pitch or at bat to bat is uh, I just tell myself before I get up there is like you're one swing away. Whether I was 0 for 20 or 15 for my last 20, it's like you're still only one swing away. It's but you do start to feel after you're 0 for 15, you start to feel like, oh my god, I'm never gonna get a hit again. But it's like it gets to you. But
Yeah.
I think having
Yeah.
that change of mindset for me has helped me to find more success. Just knowing that I'm close, and it only takes one swing.
Yeah, that can definitely be tough because I mean, I've seen players go into really bad slumps and you sit there and you're like, well, I don't want to see this person at the plate because it's probably going to be an out because they haven't been hitting well lately. And
Right.
you're just sitting there wondering when they're going to break out of that slump. And I've always just felt like a lot of that's mental, you
It
know?
100% is, and it's hard. It's tough because it is your career, and you see the numbers start falling. You know what I mean? You're thinking, oh no. Obviously, your mind goes to the worst case scenario, you're thinking, oh, I'm gonna get released, all these things. But like I said, it's just being able to separate those things from at bat to at bat. Then you could turn a 0 for 3 day into a 1 for 4, stuff like that. And being able, I think another thing is to separate your defense from offense. And like I said earlier in my career, if I make an error or, then I would carry that into my next at bat. I'd probably strike out because I'm still thinking about the error, or vice
Yeah.
versa. I struck out, now I go out on the field and make an error. And those things just kind of go down and down. So being able to separate those things, like I said, has been huge for me in my development and my success the past 2 years.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's definitely tough because, like I said, it's it's constantly, having to prove yourself on a day-to-day basis because once it gets to that top level, I mean, there's no patience there really. If you're not performing, they will release you or you'll get DFA'd,
Hmm.
things like that. And it's you really have to perform. And I feel like at the younger levels when you're um working your way up to that, it's probably so important every day to be able to keep performing or else you're just not going to make it. As sad as
Right.
that is to
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, and I think at the lower levels, you obviously have more leeway. You're still developing. They're gonna let you play, and then I think kind of double A, especially this year, is like what I've noticed is like it's performance based. You're right there. It's like, all right, perform, or you got to perform at this level. So it's obviously it puts a little more pressure on you, but at the same time, like for me, is like it kind of fuels me, for competition. So.
Yeah. And how do you kind of maintain everything during the off season? Like how do you kind of keep yourself going during the off season when you're not practicing regularly with the team and you're not playing games regularly? Like what does the off season kind of look like for you from a baseball standpoint?
Right. So actually, I'm fortunate enough. My agent actually owns a baseball facility over in Pennsylvania, not too far away.
Oh wow.
So being able, yeah, I have a spot for me and a lot of other guys to train at. It's been awesome. So it's something I don't really have to worry about finding a spot to train. It's got everything you need. Got cages, got a gym, got a turf field. So I go in there early in the mornings during the week with a bunch of other pro guys and kind of get our work done. And then for me in the afternoons, a couple days a week, I'll stay after and work with some of the high school and younger guys that come in the afternoon, to keep myself busy and you know make some extra money in the afternoons. That's kind of my off season right there.
Hey, extra money is never a bad thing.
No, it can't hurt.
Yeah, no, that's good though, because I was gonna ask if it's, if you mainly have to do this all on your own or if you do work out with other people during the off season, because I feel like having other people to work out with definitely probably helps to kind of maintain that discipline of being able to focus during the off season so that you go into the next season and you're not completely rusty, you know?
Right. Obviously, it's a long off season, and
Yeah.
it's good to have all those other guys there to keep you accountable because it's easy to say, it's just one day, and I'm gonna skip today, But we have a good group of guys over there that hold each other accountable, and will get on you if you start skipping days. So.
Yeah, if you get into that habit, it's hard to get back into it. That's just even like me with going to the gym. Sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, I just don't have to go today. It's fine. Like I can just go tomorrow instead." But then the more you do that, the more you just don't feel like going anymore. So I feel like it's
Right.
really important to be able to have that self-motivation and self-discipline because during the season you obviously everything's, you have organized practices and everything.
Right, for sure. Yeah, and that's what I said. I'm fortunate enough to have that, be surrounded with a good group of guys, and obviously having my agent at the facility. He's always on me, so I can't I can't let
You
him see
can't be
me skipping
slacking.
days. Yeah.
That's funny. And spring training, what does that actually look like? Because I know everybody, is in the same place for spring training. How much work do you really get during spring training with people who are at the other levels, within the Red Sox organization?
Right. Obviously, obviously the big league camp guys and the minor league camp guys are kind of separated. They're on different time schedules, but with the rest of all the guys in minor league camp, you'll get a good chance to kind of be around everybody for the first couple weeks until they start dividing you into kind of teams towards the end. So, but for the first couple weeks, everyone's kind of just down there getting ready, and you get to see a lot of guys, a lot of new guys, a lot of guys coming over from the DR, younger guys that just got signed. So, you're kind of seeing everybody, and then once spring training, the games start, we start playing games against other teams and they start forming into teams, then you're kind of only around those guys, but you'll see other guys around. So it's
Yeah,
it's
I've
it's
always
a
been
lot going
curious
on.
kind of how that works.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts, so just got to keep up with the schedule and try and be in the right place at the right times.
Know where you're supposed to be when.
Yeah, there's so many guys down there, all different. There's 6 different fields, so just like I said, staying disciplined and making sure you're on top of your stuff.
That's funny. Yeah, because that can be confusing and overwhelming, I feel like, especially for somebody when it's their first time doing it.
Right.
And it's like you right after you got drafted. And it's like it's probably an experience trying to navigate all of that.
Right. Yeah, my first spring training, it's kind of a wake up call. And now, you see all the older guys, and now I feel like I'm one of the older guys coming back into spring training now. I've been around for a little while, so
You figured out how it works by now.
yeah, I got it figured out now.
Is it? Yeah, but that's interesting though, because it's probably nice to get that time at the beginning to be able to interact with other people that, you probably wouldn't usually get to interact with. Like people at the AAA level, for example, you probably get to see them a lot earlier on in spring training, but then when people start to break off and stuff, you might not see as many of those people anymore.
Right, and obviously you have relationships with guys from other that are in different levels now, so it's always good to catch up with them. And then obviously during the season, like I just played golf with Nick Decker the other day, another Jersey
Oh, nice.
guy I grew up with. Um, so like I haven't seen him in almost like 5 months of the season, so it's crazy. Like you see him in spring training, and then all of a sudden at a different level, you don't see him for 5 months. So it's crazy.
It's crazy to think about that. Yeah, because everybody's doing different things
Right.
during the season. That's awesome that you were able to catch up though and play some golf.
Yeah, no, it was a good time. It was a good time. I didn't play very well, but that's all right.
It's okay. It happens to everybody. Yeah, I haven't played golf in a long time. I used to play a lot with my dad when I was younger. He would take me out and I'd play, but I have not played in a while. So if I did play now, I definitely would be really rusty.
It can't be worse than a lot of people that are out there.
Yeah, I mean, every like, once in a while I'll go to the driving range, but I have
Right.
not actually legitimately played in a while. But it's fun.
Got to get
It's a
out
good
there.
time. It's
It's
a good like
fun.
way to
Yeah,
just
it's a
like
good time.
socialize and catch up with people.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's perfect because I'm not the best golfer, but I enjoy going out there and hanging out with some of my buddies.
Yeah. No, that's really good. That's fun. Yeah, and that's super cool. I mean, the spring training thing and just being able to mesh with people and interact with a lot of different people and during spring training when you're not playing games and you have downtime, like what do people usually do during that time?
So for me, is I'm sleeping. That's just me, and there's a lot of guys like that are with me. Spring training is you're up at 6 a.m. out in the heat until you're practicing in the mornings, and then you're playing games at 12. So by the time you get home, it's already 4, and guys are tired. I know some of the pitchers will play golf. Especially they're not throwing that day, they'll be out of there earlier. But I speak for a lot of the position players when I say is we just want to lay down and sleep after a long day of spring training.
You're like, I just want to go to bed and knock it off.
Yeah, just throw
That's
on
funny.
TV and just relax in the AC.
Yeah, right? Yeah, because it's super hot down there too, so it's probably refreshing when you get an AC.
Yeah, that's all you're looking for. That was actually one of the really nice things about Portland this year was the weather. Obviously, it was super cold in the beginning, but the summers were awesome. It's like 65, 70 every night, no humidity. That was ideal.
Yeah. No, that's so nice. That's really nice. Um, and so when you get called up, to the next level, How do they usually notify you of that? Like, how do you find that out? Because I know people, it can be kind of sudden, like in the middle of the season type thing. Somebody gets called up, or I've even seen things like, oh, yeah, we need this person to come for this one series to play up and the majors, and they'll go back down to triple A. And that can be a lot to, ship people back and forth like that. So if you do get called up, like how do you get notified about that in order to be able to prepare yourself for that?
Yeah, so usually it's right after a game, if you're going up, is the manager will call you into his office and let you know. And you don't really know how long they don't really tell you how long you're gonna be there for, if it's permanent, if it's not. So, you're
It's kind of scary.
kind of just going with the flow.
That's kind of scary. Yeah, because so it's like
Yeah.
when you got called up to Portland, they just said you're going up to double A, but you don't know how long you're going to be there for.
Right. So for me, it was in spring training. So, I made it like you make the team out of camp and you're going to double it, like you're going to Portland. So most likely, you're going to be there for a decent amount of time. Obviously, unless if you kind of don't do very well, then obviously that could factor in. Or if you do extremely well, then you can move up. So, you know, you kind of never know. You're trying to just, like I said, play for yourself, and whatever happens, happens. Those things are out of your control, and those are things that can get in your head when you start thinking about them. Is why am I not going here, why am I not going here? Is those things are out of your control, and those things I've seen get to guys' heads, and like I said, mentally it kind of will mess with you. So
Yeah, because I feel like it's, if you're thinking about that in the back of your head, like you, for example, if you're like, oh, when am I going to get called up to Worcester? Then it's like there's distractions there, I feel like, for you, because mentally you're like, oh, I have to play really well because the
right.
better I play now, like the sooner I'll get called up to AAA. But you kind of can't think about it like that. You just have to kind of play your game, and then that'll just naturally happen if you continue to perform, I feel like.
Correct. Yeah, and that's a big thing for me, is just to control the controllables, and those things. I don't make those decisions, so those things are out of my control. All I can do is show up to the field and perform every day, and those things will take care of themselves.
Yeah. No, that's definitely can be nerve-wracking, I feel like, for some people though, and I feel like that's why, sometimes people just don't make it because baseball has one of the most, grueling systems, I feel like, to go through before you really make it to that level. Like you don't get your shot really right away like you do with some other sports like football. You just get
Hmm.
drafted and you can just play.
Right.
I mean, obviously basketball, they have a little bit like they have the G League and everything, but it's still
Right.
that process with baseball to really make it there is tough, and really get to the level you want to be at. And it takes all those steps. And I feel like not everybody realizes how much players actually go through before they make it to the major league level.
No, for sure, and you always have your friends and family asking you like what's going on. A lot of people don't understand how the minor league system works, and that there's a 5 or 6 levels. It's not like other sports. Obviously, they see the other sports and they think that you're just gonna go straight to the to the MLB. So it's it's a grind. I know people talk about it as a grind, and as going through it right now, it's definitely a grind. But I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's fun and it's what I want to do. But it's definitely a grind, and you gotta just work through it every day.
Yeah, I mean that's just how it is. If that's what you love to do and that's kind of what you strive for, it'll all hopefully be worth it if you do get to that level you want to be at. Like if you're making your debut in a Red Sox uniform at Fenway, then you'll know that that's all worth it, you know.
Right. No, for
Um
sure, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I know with the Red Sox, obviously, you talked a lot about their system being really good and the players that they bring into the system and just treating everybody really well that does come into their system. And as you see people, be called up and maybe people get traded into the organization, um, you know, mid-season, because I know that that has happened too. There's been people that because midway through the season before the trade deadline when the Red Sox are making trades and people are coming into the system partway through, um, you know, What is that like for those people to come into the team? Because you've probably seen this, especially at the double A level, even this year. I think we ended up trading for a couple people that were in the minor league system and were playing in Portland. Is that a hard transition period for them if they at that level have to go from playing somewhere else to then transitioning when the season's already going on to the Red Sox system based on what you've seen and players that you've played with that has happened to?
Right. Yeah, we had a couple guys this year. Taylor Broadway came over, and Willie Abreu. And I mean, I'm sure it's harder than they made it look, but for me, I feel like they made a seamless transition, and I think that goes to credit the team we had in Portland. You know, we had a really good group of guys that were close together, and you know, we were kind of like we ended up bonding in that second half, and when we made that playoff run. And I think those guys that came in, I think they fell into that bond, and you know, made that transition a lot easier for them.
Yeah. No, that's really good, and I feel like having that team chemistry is so important. I feel like you see that at all levels, and that's really important at all levels, but being able to adapt to those types of changes, knowing that that could happen to anybody at any time, because at the end of the day, there's the people up top that do the business work
Right.
for the sport, and so, people could be moved around really whenever. Is that something that you just try not to think about if like during the season when you're like, oh, like, what if I'm part of a trade package, like, eventually and I get moved? Like, is that something that people think about, or do you just not worry about it and then whatever happens, happens?
Right. Yeah. For me, like I said before, with even the roster moves, is you know those things are out of your control. But I think a cool thing that kind of people will say is, when you're in the minor leagues, you're not just playing for the Red Sox. You know, you're playing for all teams out there. You know, you never know where you could end up. So obviously, you know, the org you're in, you wanna play for them and make your debut with them. But at the end of the day, you know, the goal is to play in the major leagues, no matter what team that is for. And obviously, you have all the other teams that are watching as well and looking to build their roster. So
Yeah, that's such a good point too, because you never know where you could end up because, you could end up in a different organization because in terms of a trade standpoint, you could fill the needs that another team's minor league system might need at that time. And you could end up getting your opportunity even quicker when you do get there for that team. So yeah, that's definitely a good way of looking at it, that it's like, yeah, you never know where you could end up. So you just have to put your best product out there, obviously, for your team. But if you're standing out to other teams and you get moved, then that could be your shot, really.
for sure, right, and that's why this is just knowing that you never know. I think that's a big thing in minor league baseball is you really never know, and it's just being able to stay present and just being ready for whatever's thrown at you.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, hitting a baseball is really, really challenging because I mean, it really it's not a lot of time to decide if you should swing at a pitch or not. So I'm always watching, how fast these pitchers are throwing, and I'm like, how are they able to know that quickly if they should swing at that pitch or not? I'm like, if somebody's throwing like in the majors, even if somebody's throwing a baseball that's like 95 miles an hour, it's like that gives you like no time to decide if you want to swing at the pitch. And so I feel like people will sometimes kind of, give players crap for like being like, why would he swing at that? Like that was way outside. Like, because it's hard to know what's gonna be coming and what pitch they're gonna throw. So when you're at the plate, like how do you kind of focus strictly on that and block out the distractions that are around you in the middle of a game?
Right. Obviously, there's so many distractions going on, like externally and internally,
Yeah.
like kind of talked about before. But you know, just trying to slow the game down and trying to just breathe. You know, obviously, you come up in some big situations, stuff like that, and it's just trusting the practice that you put in, and trusting the scouting report. I think that's a big thing that people don't see is, you know, we have scouting reports on all the pitchers. So like, you know, we know how hard they throw on, they're knowing what they're like to do and how they're probably going to pitch us. So knowing their velos, knowing the percentages of what they throw makes it a little bit easier. So you have some idea, not going in there blind, but obviously today's pitchers they're still evolving. I mean, guys are throwing. I would say 95 is the new 90. Everyone seems to be
It's
throwing
crazy.
95 now. And before it was like, oh, he's throwing 90. That was a big deal. Now it's like 95. You got guys throwing 102. It's like, wow. So
It's
obviously
so crazy.
those scouting reports help to an extent, but you still got you're in the box. It's still on you to make those decisions. And like you said, they're split second decision. So
Yeah, so when you have a pitcher, generally kind of, what their best pitch is, what they like to throw, when like if they're facing a right-handed hitter or a left-handed hitter, like what they're more inclined to throw. Those are all generally because you kind of studied those pitchers ahead of time.
right, and that's where it's almost like a chess match. It's kind of a weird way to describe it, but they have their game plan for you, what the scouting report says to throw to you, and then obviously you have a game plan off of them of how you're going to attack them, and obviously hitting's hard. I think MLB average is down to like 240, so you're
Yeah.
getting a hit 24% of the time. It's the pitchers are going to win, so most of the time, but it's just, like playing that chess match is like you just got to you got to trust what you're doing, and obviously, if you win 30% of the time, you'll be in the Hall of Fame. So
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like you look at hitters now, it's almost like if they're hitting over 300, it's just seen as this just unbelievable thing now because it's just so it
right.
just seems like it's harder now to really be successful at the plate. And I feel like if you look at some of the best hitters in Major League Baseball, they even still, if you really think about it, are succeeding about 30% of the time that they're at the plate, which overall is really not that much of the time considering. So people, I feel like fans expect these players to get a hit every time that are
Right.
some of the best hitters in baseball, but that's just not how it's going to happen.
Right. No, that's what they call baseball as a game of failure. So I think that's the biggest thing is how you can handle it and how you can make those adjustments.
Do you feel like hitting or fielding is harder?
Hitting for sure. No question. It's got to be hitting. And that's why I think Aaron Judge's the season that he's having right now is unbelievable. It's honestly one of the best statistical seasons. If you look at it, he's hitting
Crazy.
315 in today's era of what we talked about. It's like major league average is 240. He's hitting over 300 with 61 homers and 130 RBIs. So it's crazy to see that because obviously now you either have the guys that hit for average or the guys that hit for power and or will hit 220 for you. So to see Aaron Judge doing what he's doing right now is unbelievable.
Yeah, because you see a lot of players in baseball now who will hit a lot of home runs because they have a really powerful bat, but they can't really hit singles and doubles or make things happen on the field for you as much. But then you have, the players like Xander Bogarts, for example, who has a really, really good batting average and is giving Judge a run for his money in batting average, but he doesn't hit a ton of home runs. I mean, he'll hit home
Right.
runs, but like he's more of a contact hitter, and will just he's capable of putting the ball in play and being productive at the plate more. So I feel like there's just vastly different hitters now in terms of how people approach their at bats at the plate.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I think it's so impressive for what Judge is doing because he's doing all of it.
Yeah,
And that's why he's doing
crazy.
there's not one thing that he's not doing at the plate. So obviously
Yeah, that's
it's
why
a hell of a
his
season
season
for
is
him.
just we're not going to see that again probably just because he's really doing everything, and the whole triple crown thing is just crazy because we rarely ever see that. So,
That especially that's what you're saying is no one really hits for average end power anymore. So the fact that
yeah,
he's
they
in
don't.
the triple crown running right now is unbelievable.
Which of those two categories would you put yourself in more?
So for me, I like to try and be an all around hitter. I try and obviously power is part of my game, but for me, I think I take pride in on base percentage, which is like a weird stat that not a lot of people will look at. Obviously, it's factored into OPS, so that will obviously have so some people will look at it, but for me, on base percentage is big for me because obviously hitting is so hard. So obviously there's gonna be times where you do everything right and you get out. But on base percentage for me is obviously it takes into account walks for me and having good at bats. And I think that those things translate into the power and the averages. Yeah, so for me, I'm chasing on base percentage just because I know how hard hitting is, and you're not going to get a hit every time. But if, I think there's value in being on base and being able to put your team in a position to score a run and yourself in a position to score a run. Obviously, has value.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because even if you draw a walk, that's you're getting on base and that's putting your team in position to help drive you in as that run. So I feel like that's still productive, even though it's not getting a hit. You're still
Right.
getting yourself on base and finding a way to get on base. And that's, I feel like, what makes really good hitters too, is you're not necessarily thinking you have to get a hit every time. If you can find a way to get on base more often than not, then that's going to make you a successful player, I feel like, because then you're already on base, you can steal bases, you can be athletic and find a way to get yourself home also. And then it's kind of on
Right.
everybody else in the lineup after you to try to put together some productive at bats to drive you in. But yeah, that's definitely a good mentality, because you have to get on base.
Right. And
So
obviously you want to get a hit, like you want to hit home runs, you want to drive guys in. And
yeah.
obviously there's time and place for that, but when there's not always a guy on second and third with less than 2 outs, there's always sometimes you're leading off and you got to find a way to get on base. So that's kind of for me is, if I'm swinging at good pitches and, taking the bad pitches is then I know my on base percentage will be in a good spot and the rest of
Yeah.
those things will take care of themselves.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Would you say leading off is the hardest spot in the lineup to be in?
So for me, I haven't let off much, but I don't know, honestly. For me, I'm not really sure. I haven't had much experience in that spot, so
Yeah. I've
not
I've always
exactly
been
sure on that one.
curious, because I feel like people who lead off, like, I don't know if that would be harder for them than everybody else, because they're kind of setting the tone
Right,
for everybody, or not, or if the expectation from the leadoff hitter is to get on base more
right.
often than not, and that's why they hit there. I've never been sure, because obviously when I watch Red Sox games, the lineup is generally the same in terms of who's hitting where.
Yep.
They don't really deviate the leadoff spot that much. Granted, they had a lot of injuries this season, so things would change. But I've always wondered
Mhm.
if there was that expectation always for that person to try to get on base, and that's why they're hitting in that spot.
Yeah, no, definitely. Obviously, the leadoff guy, you want to get on base, and I guess I would say it is harder. Why I say that is because we're the first batter of the game. Obviously, you see the scouting report, you're watching film. Excuse me, but you don't know how he's going to attack you that day. So that's why like being down in the obviously after leadoff is you're able to see what the pitcher's throwing that day, and you kind of can get some intel from that. So kind of being the leadoff guy, you're kind of going up there blind, but you're not blind. You have a scouting report, but it's nice to be able to watch from the dugout and see how they're kind of attacking the leadoff guy.
Yeah, exactly, because you don't know if they're gonna have their best stuff that day
Right,
or not either. If you're the leadoff hitter, you have no idea what they're gonna come at you with, whereas I feel like the more hitters that they go through, you know, the more you can kind of see, like, okay, he doesn't really have his fastball right now, or,
right.
like, his curveball's a little off. Like, you don't know that when you're hitting leadoff, but you can see that if you're hitting in another spot and you're like, okay, like, this, he doesn't seem to have that pitch today.
Right. Yeah, and that's a big thing is obviously is being able to eliminate pitches. Obviously in the pregame meeting, you can't really eliminate anything. Yeah, he throws 4 or 5 pitches, whatever. But kind of watching the game, watching the guys in front of you, see how he's like, oh, he's not throwing that first strike today, so I'm gonna play my odds and eliminate that pitch because you can't hit everything. You got to go up there with a plan.
Yep. No, it's true. It's definitely true. Yeah, and I feel like hitters have certain pitches that they can hit better too. So it's definitely, you're not going to be able to hit every pitch that a pitcher is throwing.
Right. Yeah, and that's where the game plan comes in is obviously playing to your strengths, and then obviously there's times where the pitcher, it's not a great matchup for you, so you're just gonna have to kind of grind in there and try and take your single or try and take a walk, and that's where those on base, that stuff comes in because it's not always a friendly matchup for you at the plate. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and sometimes, the pitcher has the advantage. So, but being able to, just not give in and, just throw away an at bat, as some people will say.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, no, this was great. I really appreciate you being on the show with me. This was a lot of fun. Great conversation. It was actually a really fast hour. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Wow.
this was awesome.
No, thank you for having me. I enjoyed talking. It's been fun.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I wish you the best of luck. Everybody else listening definitely wishes you the best of luck too. Love the Red Sox, so I'll definitely be rooting for you and kind of your path as you navigate through this whole thing. And hopefully, we see you making your Fenway debut soon.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, and thanks again for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. Everyone, as always, appreciate you tuning into the show. Definitely, follow Tyler and his journey through the Red Sox organization. Definitely wish him the best of luck. Hope everyone has a great rest of your week. I'll catch you all next time on the show. And thanks again for tuning in. Take care, everyone.